Can you hear me? You can hear me. Hi, everybody. Great to be here. And I'm hoping that today I'm going to look at things from a very different angle. We completely believe at Willbe that there is a space for traditional and functional medicine. And I'm going to hope by the end of today's presentation, we're also going to chat to some of our clients who have undertaken this testing. And let's go. Whilst perimenopause is a natural transition, the reality is that as women, we're going to spend 30 years of our life or more in this state. And the reality is that our risks of chronic disease do increase. And I know for one, I'm not prepared to accept that. I want something better for my life. I want to live my life long, and I want to live it healthy. So when we are busy, we need proactive strategies. And this is where functional medicine can really help make the difference. Many women come to us after a few years of struggling. Their HRT doesn't work, they've got brain fog. You know, the symptoms I think we all know about. So we're all sitting in this room. And the reality is that menopause isn't just about what happens with your ovaries or your uterus, but there's a huge impact also in your career progression, in your social and communities, and how you feel as a woman and your confidence. During perimenopause, the traditional approach, and I'm not including the good kind of GPs here that have got a very progressive approach to menopause. I'm really talking about how traditional testing is more about treating the population and not the patient, that it's a lot more about symptom diagnosis and band-aiding. And it doesn't look about treating you because your genes are different, you are different, your lifestyle is different, your family history is different. Everything about you is unique. And whilst there are population guidelines, you may not fit into that guidelines. And I know for myself, I didn't. I tried BHRT first. Disaster. I came off because I needed something that was more bespoke. And I had to dig deep to find out how to actually make it work for me. So I've lived that experience myself. I think the one thing that's really interesting is that when you're looking at traditional medicine, you're looking out of 100 people, 95 people would not actually have a disease. And that's what your traditional lab values are looking at. Now, in functional medicine, we are looking at optimal. So I'm going to use a case study because it's probably the easiest thing. If you optimize your vitamin D levels, you will live 1.87 years longer just by making sure that you've got your vitamin D levels right. And that was a study done in Poland. So if you're looking at your levels, you don't just want to be deficient in vitamin D and just kind of meeting the box. You actually really want to be finding that nuanced, optimal level where you know that you're actually going to have the best benefits for your health. And I think this is where Willbe, the company, has got an amazing philosophy. We are here not to say that there's something wrong with traditional medicine. We want to take and integrate traditional medicine with a new version of functional medicine. We want to combine the two. And, we want to go optimal health, root cause, lifestyle, genetics, blood work. We want to take the best of traditional and overlay it with functional medicine. And the reason we do this when we're looking at your hormonal health or genetics is we actually want to create a personalized strategy so that you can actually relieve your symptoms, not just quickly, but also to look forward into your future and know that the choices you are making are going to help protect you. You don't want to spend the last 9 years of your life in ill health. And this is the philosophy. It's a seamless integration between functional and traditional medicine. I love this quote from her. She says, testing isn't merely about determining where you are in your perimenopausal journey. It's about using that information to take ownership of your health, to ensure that you've got a personalized strategy. You want to fast track your symptoms relief. You don't want to be sitting there trying a hormone replacement therapy or, and then another solution if it's not actually going to work for you. You want to make sure that you've reduced chronic disease risk and also enhance your longevity. We do a very comprehensive testing. We've got an example of the report if you want to have a look after. And I'm going to speak to you today about two key aspects. One is estrogen metabolites, and The other is methylation. And these two components are generally not researched well when you're looking in the traditional medicine space. And these, just two small areas of what we do, can have a huge bearing on your risk of disease, cancer specifically, as well as how you're going to respond to hormone replacement therapy, anxiety. So we can actually circumvent a lot of prescriptions for things like depressants because they're not actually going to what is the cause of your anxiety or mood. It's actually the hormones, and how do we start from the bottom up and help you? You've got your primary estrogens, and when they are metabolized through the body, they can be reactive. So 2-OH is actually quite what we call the good one. It's anti-carcinogenic. It helps to inhibit cell proliferation. It methylates faster, and we know that this one actually helps to reduce breast cancer risk. On the other hand, your 4-OH and 16-OH, we want to make sure that those are kept in check. Those are the two that can actually really cause a lot of problems when you're looking at breast cancer risk or cause mortality. And the reality is that when you're going to have traditional testing, they're not looking at the metabolites and how your body metabolizes, detoxifies, and eliminates estrogen from the body. If you're taking estrogen, you need to know what is your balance of 2, 4, and 16-OH. Because at the end of the day, you don't want something that is pro-cancerous like your 4-OH or 16-OH. You want something to be in the right amounts in the body. Anything that's too much or too little is, we want to keep it in check. The body has a very careful equilibrium. So how does this help knowing it? Not just for long term, but in terms of symptoms. If you have high levels of 4-OH, not only is it bad for you long term for increasing your risk of disease, but you can see some of those symptoms are actually linked to whether your body is metabolizing into the 4-OH pathway. So 4-OH can give you irregular cycles, bloating, mood swings, fatigue, as well as can make it harder to lose weight. On the other hand, 16-OH is linked to obesity, hypothyroidism. The thyroid also comes out as often being impacted as well during perimenopause, brain fog, inflammation, as well as 16-OH is linked to endometriosis. If you're struggling with some of these aspects and they're not coming right, I would encourage you to get the more in-depth testing to see if this is where your challenges are coming from. And then we also look to see how do we balance it. So the most important thing when we're looking at estrogen metabolites is not are they too high, but also what is the ratio of 2-OH to 4 and 16. We want to balance it. Now women say, okay, right now my 16-OH is up, my 2-OH is up, I'm stressed out. Don't be. We know that there are ways to move your body and to support the correct pathways. And one of these is methylation. And so we just, you can see here, clinically, there's research studies. If you have got good 2-OH to 16-OH, you're going to have reduced breast cancer risk, reduced breast cancer mortality, reduced all-cause mortality, and as well as cardiovascular disease. So this is a good reason to be looking in depth at your hormones and how they're broken down. The last aspect, so that's just estrogen, a small little pocket of what we do. The other thing we're going to look at as well then is methylation. Now methylation has been getting quite a lot of insights recently. Methylation is a biochemical switch in the body where it will help to amplify a certain chemical, it'll turn it on, or it'll also help to make it inert. So methylation is really, really important. And it's impacted in multiple systems in the body, and you literally can't live without methylation. But specifically for perimenopause, you can see here that your 2-OH, which is the good one, that also goes through methylation called COMT, and then 4-OH, the one that we really don't want a lot of, it also can be methylated. So methylation is a way for the body to protect itself in this aspect. So you want to make sure that you are methylating well. And people say, well, how do I know? Well, two things. One, you can measure your metabolites, and two, you can measure your genes. The genes will dictates to a certain degree, as well as your vitamin and nutrient status, as to how well you're going to methylate. I'm going to just focus on 3. There's many methylation genes. I'm focusing on 3 because of the impact on perimenopause. So, COMT, either you're a warrior or a warrior. Okay, so I'm the bottom one. I am a person who worries. I have anxiety. And COMT, it helps to break down dopamine in the body. It also helps to break down green tea, caffeine. So if you are intolerant to caffeine and green tea, you may actually be a warrior. You've got slow methylation due to COMT. High methylation, often find that when people are a bit aggressive, that's why it's got the warrior sign. When you look at COMT, there are multiple symptoms that it impacts in perimenopause. I'm not going to read them all out, but what's more interesting is COMT helps us to metabolize estrogen safely. Who knows what epigenetics are? Epigenetics is the way that we, in our daily lifestyle choices, what influences our genes. Now, strangely enough, we need COMT to in the estrogen methylation cycle, but low estrogen downplays COMT. We've got estrogen, we need the COMT, but low estrogen will affect the expression. For me, COMT's really important as well because a lot of women have a lot of anxiety, brain fog. COMT is also linked to ADHD, and so is MTHFR, which is the next one, which is quite a popular one. So sometimes if you don't have your methylation cycle working well, you may find that you're feeling a bit depressed. It may not be that you need to go on antidepressants. You may well do. But have you researched whether you are methylating well? Is there something else that you could be doing to your body or supporting your body so that you're not having to go onto multiple prescription medications where you actually just need to manage your genes and your hormones well? So, there's increases risk of cardiovascular disease, fatigue, energy levels. And these are all common things that overlap in perimenopause. And the last one I'm going to speak about, again, is PEMT. Now, PEMT is, no one's really talking about this gene. PEMT is really important for brain health and the nerves and the cellular wall. And PEMT, again, is impacted by estrogen. One of the main things that women come to us and why women will actually leave their careers is they can't find words. They've got brain fog. I walk into a room, I don't know what I'm doing. And the reality is that PEMT is part of that. And if you've got low estrogen, PEMT isn't working well. So what do you need to do? You need to look to see if you've got the PEMT gene. Can we help you with estrogen, or can you support it in another way through nutrient status? Because your vitamin Bs are all very important in the methylation cycle. So it's not just about the hormones. It's also about what are the lifestyle choices, the supplements, the nutraceuticals that you are taking that are actually going to help you to relieve your symptoms quicker. So we also have other genetic profiling that we do with regards to how this impacts your perimenopause, your detoxification. So we look at methylation, detoxification, inflammation, nutrients, oxidative stress, as well as insulin and weight management. And we can influence those through scientifically validated protocols to help you look the best during perimenopause. And ultimately, that's what we do. We are here to take you from your symptoms and make sure that you have your symptoms resolved faster and reduce your chronic disease risk. And now it's great to hear me talk about this, but I think often we want to hear, what do women like you experience? And that's why we've got 2 of our clients here who've undergone our testing. And Julia is our founder at Willbe, and I have got Penny and Tina with us today, and we're going to interview them so you can actually hear what they have to say and how they've benefited and resolved their symptoms with the Willbe testing method. So over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Emsley, for this insightful presentation. And this information is not available mainstream. This is cutting edge science, and I would like to thank you all for coming and listening to us here. We're going to bring all of this information to life now by speaking to our clients, Tina and Penelope. One other client was supposed to be here today, but she couldn't make it due to unforeseen circumstances. But Dr. Vanessa knows her case, so we will talk about her case because her case is really interesting. She has high 16-OH estrogen metabolites, which we just mentioned on stage. All right, so we will be focusing on each individual aspect of your hormonal health. We will talk about Penelope's slow COM gene. We will talk about Emma's high 16-OH estrogen metabolites, and we will talk about Tina's experience with BHRT and general lifestyle optimization. So Penelope, let's start with you. When you first came to us, I know that you've been struggling with symptoms like anxiety and inability to deal with stress. And when we did your genetic testing, we found out that you have slow COM with reduced methylation activity. And that was actually a root cause of your anxiety, of your low resilience to stress. How this information impacted your daily lifestyle choices?
For me, it was actually quite frightening when I still continued to have panic attacks and anxiety and worry. I'm a total worrier. And in fact, until I actually started with Willbe, I actually gave up my job and I took up art. I understood that in actual fact, my progesterone I was not taking on progesterone or through the patch. I needed to take it orally to actually make me function. I was so much better. So now I've given up fine art and I'm back working again. And I have no more panic attacks and I'm not a worrier.
Thank you. And you have been working in aesthetic gynecology, right? So you are clearly very familiar with long-term and preventative benefits of BHRT, but you still struggle to regain your vitality. One of the reasons why you came to Willbe, actually it happened at last year's PAUSE event. You were searching for a company who is doing genetic testing for perimenopause, hormones in general. Could you please tell us, where did you hear about testing your genes for hormones and menopause?
One of the things that I found out is when we talk about HRT and we go through menopause, everyone sort of seems to think that you can take HRT and it'll solve all your problems. However, it obviously didn't solve mine in the beginning. So I was at the last PAUSE meeting and there was actually a geneticist who was talking about looking at your DNA to actually see how you metabolize HRT and metabolize your food and everything. And I realized that this was quite important. So for the rest of the conference, I walked around to each one of the tables and asked them how they did their testing. And Willbe was, to me, quite unique. And then they did a urinary test, which was over 6 tests over 24 hours. So they could actually see exactly what was happening, how you were metabolizing your urine. They also took blood tests, which is also important because I think some of you know you either get a blood test or a urine test or a saliva test when you get tested for HRT. The other thing they did was the genetic test. And funny enough, I found that I actually didn't metabolize coffee or alcohol well, which was a bit of a sad thing. It made me realize that they looked at me holistically. So not only did they look at my hormones, they looked at the rest of my body. And I was low in vitamin D, I was low in vitamin A, and I wasn't actually metabolizing my progesterone that I was taking. So it made a huge difference, and it made me feel like I kind of understood my body. And it was also about food. Apparently my diet was lousy. And I had to change that as well. And I had to do more exercise, but not swimming or golf. I had to do strengthening exercises, which I did, and that also made a difference. So for me, it's very important to get tested completely and holistically when you're looking at HRT, and it's worked for me.
Thank you, Penelope. And just one last question about your progesterone. I know that before coming to Willbe, you were doing transdermal progesterone, and when we tested your progesterone levels, they were not sufficient because transdermal progesterone is not as efficient in raising progesterone levels. And our team swapped your progesterone for an oral one. What difference did it make in the way you're sleeping or in your symptoms in general?
It made a huge difference. Both my daughter and my husband could see the difference. We have a joke in our family. We call HRT anti-werewolf tablets. So when you don't take them, you become a werewolf. So that changed completely, but it also changed my attitude. I mean, look, I was brave enough to do fine art and I loved it, but I did life drawing, which was also quite different. And I also went back to work, and I'm now working. I'm 65 years old, and I'll probably continue to work. I don't think I'm going to be retiring anytime soon.
Great, thank you so much. Let's now move on to a case study with Emma, because I really want to talk about 16-OH metabolites. Dr. Vanessa obviously knows her case, and one of our clients, she has very high 16-OH. Could you please tell us why is it bad having very high 16-OH, and what risks are increased when you have such a hormonal profile?
So 16-OH, the biggest challenge is while it's good to help with bones, when it's too high, it actually promotes growth of cancer cells, and it actually helps the tumor to develop blood cells and blood supplies. So you're actually encouraging growth. Again, we need a small amount to be good, but we don't really want it to be high. And it's kind of driven by one of the liver enzymes as to whether you will go into that pathway or not.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify that this client, she was not on hormone replacement before coming to us. It was her natural 16-OH, which were due to her genetic predispositions as well as lifestyle. Thank you very much. Let's move on to Tina. Tina, could you please tell us your experience with traditional setting? I know that you struggled with mood-related issues and you were searching for a BHRT, and you went to a GP and you went to a private consultant. Could you please tell us that story?
Okay, so I was on the journey of going through this lovely journey of menopause, perimenopause. I had lots of symptoms. I hadn't had a cycle for 151 days. I was equally the werewolf. So I connected with that. And I just didn't know what to do. I was extremely uncertain. I went to my GP. They offered me a blood test. They then came back and said, yes, it's very low. Have some testosterone and some estrogen. And off I went. It was very rushed. I felt very uncertain and very scared about it. My question was, how do you know? How do you know how many pumps I need? How do you know how many tablets I need? How's my body's processing this? So I was concerned. So I went to a private doctor who didn't give me any blood test and said that we don't give blood tests because obviously you fluctuate, your hormones fluctuate. So I paid £500 to be given the same prescription. I was an absolute car crash, if I'm honest. And I, at that point, thought that was it for me. I didn't really know where to turn. And then I was presented with Willbe. And I have to say, it's been a breath of fresh air. I feel like I'm Tina again, which is just such an amazing experience. But I'm sure you have another question. Do you want me to?
Yeah, and also I would like to emphasize that when we did Tina's genetic and hormone testing, her genes are actually pretty good, and hormonal profile is also pretty good. She didn't have those harmful estrogen metabolites, and she still experienced a lot of perimenopausal symptoms due to declining hormones. When you came to Willbe, you were presented with a holistic approach. Could you please talk us through what were the key factors that made you realize that you're on the right path?
I think the main thing is, one, I felt seen. I felt unique. I felt like it was my experience, not just a generic, off you go, 1 pump, 2 pumps, and there you go. I felt like I was finally in control, and I felt somebody was listening to me. It wasn't just about the hormones. It was explaining about how my hormones in my body, about how my body processes my hormones, and what's the best thing for me. I also learned a lot about hormones, and hormones that I never even heard of before. But what was so profound, I think, was the whole summary of everything about what's going on in my body and the approach that I should be taking in my lifestyle, not just fitness. It was nutrients that I'm lacking, and things that I was allergic to, which I didn't even know. Unfortunately, alcohol as well is one of them, caffeine, gluten. Making all those changes and feeling supported. Yeah, and feeling supported throughout that whole journey was a game changer for me. I believe this should be available to everybody. I do think that their whole approach is the best thing that's ever happened to me. So I'm extremely grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tina. Because one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work, especially when it comes to hormones. Our genes influence when and how we go into perimenopause. And I think the first thing that all women going through perimenopause need to do is understand how their unique body works, what are they made of, learn it once and for life, and focus on the areas which need the most attention. And that's exactly what we are doing. We're empowering women with knowledge about their uniqueness so that you can take ownership of your health, take control of your life. Like, to finish off, I would like to say that you don't have to go through perimenopause by yourself. There are options either through testing, either through lifestyle optimization or other advanced modalities. If you have any questions, please come to us and you can speak to Dr. Emsley or you can speak to one of our clients. We are here to help you and support in your perimenopausal journey. We cut through the noise of contradicting information about health by personalizing our advice based on your unique genetic makeup. And that's what makes us different. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much for that. Do you have any questions from the audience? Hi. Also, wondering about that. Question you keep mentioning perimenopausal journey. If you read it postmenopausal, obviously it's too late.
I'm postmenopausal. I had that joy at 45, so I'm 48. Yes, it can help you. It can help you to make sure that you're on the lowest, most effective dose of HRT, if that's what you choose. It can help with your bone density to protect against osteopenia and osteoporosis. Being a Caucasian white woman, you're at higher risk than somebody else. So, yes, absolutely, 100%. Brain fog happens fast. Don't worry.
Who is it? Is it yourselves who do the testing for the gene, or is it a different company?
We don't have our own lab, but we use reputable labs and we do all the analysis. So I think that's where we add something that is quite unique. There are a lot of labs out there and a lot of people are using the same tests, but we really have a unique approach as how we layer in your information. So you get your urine testing, your genetic testing, your lifestyle, as well as then your blood testing. And generally it's just given in segments, whereas we take all of it together and we map it, we plot it, we plan it. I'm a data analyst, I'm a numbers nerd, I'm a science freak. And that's where it really does come together, is trying to find the most effective answers for you.
Can I just add this one? And this is the beauty of working with us. We will always use the best of the testing available, which is on the market. We will always use the most cutting-edge laboratory, which is out there, because we are providing the service.
I also have my results with me. I brought them with me. So if you're interested just to have a look at what you get, then you're more than welcome to have a look at my results.
Okay.